She thought she bought an old jacket, but inside its pocket was a letter written to her 25 years ago by a father she believed was dead. Rain hammered the charity shop window like it wanted in. I was killing time, avoiding the empty apartment and the silence that had lived there since Mark deployed 6 months ago. My fingers moved over rails of dead men's coats until they stopped on one that didn't belong among the cheap polyester dark navy wool, heavy, almost black with age. The label read Savile Row, 1998. Someone had loved this jacket once. I slipped my arms inside. It fit like it had waited 25 years for my shoulders. In the left pocket, something crackled. A single envelope, thick cotton paper, yellowed but not brittle. My name, my full name, Elena Rose Carter, was written on the front in ink that had once been black and was now the color of dried blood. My pulse stumbled. No one here knew me. I had never even been to this city before this week. I paid the stunned volunteer 20 pounds and walked out into the storm with the coat collar turned up and the letter burning against my ribs. Under the awning of a closed cafe, I tore it open. Elena, if you are reading this, I am already gone, and you have finally come looking for what I hid from you your entire lives. I'm sorry for every lie. Start with a jacket. It will take you home. There was no signature, only a pressed violet, fragile as ash, and beneath it a brass key taped to the paper. I read it 3 times, rain dripping from my hair onto the words, smearing them. I didn't cry. I couldn't. Shock is colder than grief. The key was old, long-shanked, the kind that opens houses people stopped building after the war. A tiny tag wired to it read 17 in the same faded ink. I knew one place where the door marked 17. The lake house my mother forbade me to visit after Dad disappeared when I was 7. The house she swore was sold the year he vanished. I drove north through the night, the coat on the passenger seat like a sleeping passenger. Every mile the letter seemed heavier, the violet more fragrant, as if time inside the envelope had been holding its breath for me. At 3:17 a.m., I reached the gravel lane choked with pines. The house stood dark, windows blind with boards. But the padlock on the front door was new, shiny, waiting. The key slid in like it was greased with destiny. Inside smelled of cedar and lost summers. Moonlight slashed through the boarded windows and fell across the living room floor in silver bars. On the mantel sat a photograph I had never seen. My father younger than I ever knew him, standing beside a woman who was not my mother. The woman was laughing into the camera, one hand resting on a swollen belly. My belly. She had my eyes. Behind the photograph, carved into the wood with what must have been a knife, "Forgive me, E." I sank onto the dusty floor, still wearing the stranger's coat, the letter in my fist. And for the first time in 25 years, I spoke aloud to my father. Why did you leave me? The house didn't answer, but something upstairs creaked a footstep, slow and deliberate. I wasn't alone. I froze, breath clouding in the cold. The creak came again, closer to the stairs. I shoved the letter into the coat's inside pocket and backed toward the door, heart slamming against bone. The key was still in the lock outside. I could be gone in seconds. Elena? A voice low, cracked with disuse. Male, familiar in the way nightmares are familiar. I knew that voice from childhood nightmares and crackling satellite calls from desert bases, but it couldn't be. The figure that stepped into the moonlight was tall, thin, shoulders stooped under a weight heavier than flesh. Silver streaked the dark hair I once pulled when he tossed me in the air. The face was carved deeper, eyes sunken. But it was him. Daddy? The word came out small, 7 years old again. He flinched as if I'd struck him. Don't call me that, not yet. He was wearing the twin of my coat, same cut, same year, same faint smell of cedar and gun oil. In his hand, he held another envelope, identical paper, my name in the same dying ink. I wrote 2 letters, he said. One for if you came alone, one for if you came with hate. I couldn't move. 25 years of birthday cards returned unopened, of my mother's bitter, drunken stories about the man who abandoned us, of learning to say, my father is dead, because it hurt less than the truth. Everything collapsed into this moment. You're supposed to be dead, I whispered. I was supposed to be a lot of things. He descended the last step. Moonlight caught the scar that ran from his left ear to collarbone. New, ugly, puckered. He saw me stare. Helmand Province, 2011. Officially, the story you were fed. His mouth twisted. There's always an officially. He held out the second envelope. My fingers shook so hard I nearly dropped it. Inside, another violet, another key tagged cellar, and a single photograph. Me at 16, sneaking out the bedroom window, taken from the street below. The timestamp on the back, 3 days after he supposedly died. You watched me, I said. The betrayal tasted metallic. I never stopped. He turned away, ashamed. There are things I need to tell you before sunrise, things that will make you wish I'd stayed dead. He walked to the kitchen, shoulders rounded like an old man. I followed because hate and love were braided too tight in me to tell which was pulling. On the table lay a military-issue laptop, still humming. Open on the screen, live satellite feed of my apartment building back in the city. Another window showed Mark my Mark sleeping in a barracks in Qatar, unaware he was being watched. I felt the floor tilt. Sit, my father said. This is going to hurt. Then he told me why he vanished the night I turned 7. He had been MI6, deep cover, hunting a trafficking network that sold children to men with diplomatic plates. One night, he got too close. They took a girl who looked like me, same age, same dark curls. To punish him, they sent him her ear in a matchbox. He made a choice. Disappear. Let the world believe Captain Daniel Carter died a hero in a helicopter crash, or watch them come for me next. So he staged his death, kissed my sleeping forehead, and walked into a fire that wasn't hot enough to kill him. For 25 years, he lived in shadows, dismantling the network piece by piece. Every birthday, every graduation, he was there across the street, on the roof opposite, wearing that coat so I would never see his face. The second coat, the one I now wore, had belonged to the man who ordered the little girl's death. My father killed him in Prague, took the coat as a reminder, and one day when he thought it was finally safe, hung it in a charity shop in the city I had moved to 6 months ago without telling anyone. He wanted me to find the letter. He wanted me to choose whether to forgive him before he turned himself in at dawn. I stared at the man who was and wasn't my father. Upstairs, the grandfather clock struck 5. 2 hours until sunrise. And then the laptop chimed, red alert crawling across the screen. Target acquired. Elena Carter, Lake House, eliminate loose ends. They had found us both. My father moved faster than a man his age should. He killed the laptop with one hand and drew a pistol with the other. They piggybacked the satellite key I used to watch Mark, he said, voice calm, the same tone he once used to read me The Hobbit. We have 7 minutes. I stood frozen in the second coat, the dead man's coat, the coat that had carried me here like a cursed compass. Cellar, he said, now. We ran. The key-marked cellar opened a false panel behind the pantry. Stone steps spiraled down into blackness that smelled of earth and gunpowder. He flicked on a single bulb. The room was an armory. Rifles racked like books, maps pinned to walls, photographs of men with red X's through their faces. In the corner, a small bed with a child's blanket, faded unicorns. Mine, from when I was 5. He saw me look. Some nights I needed to remember why. Boots on gravel outside. Car doors, soft but deliberate. 4, maybe 5 men. He pressed a flash drive into my hand. Everything. Names, accounts, proof. If I don't make it, upload it at 6 o'clock from the cafe in town. The password is the day you lost your first tooth. I laughed, a broken sound. You remember that? I remember everything. He started loading a shotgun. I grabbed his wrist. You don't get to die a second time, not after you made me mourn you for 25 years. He met my eyes, and for the first time I saw the little boy he must have been before the world taught him disappearing acts. Elena, some stories only end one way. Upstairs, the front door splintered. He kissed my forehead like he did the night he left, quick and fierce. Run. There's a tunnel behind the wine rack, leads to the boat shed. I didn't move. Then we end it together, I said. I took the dead man's coat off, folded it once, laid it on the small bed like I was burying it. Underneath, I wore my own skin and 25 years of rage and love. I picked up the second shotgun. He looked at me, really looked, and something in his face broke open into pride so raw it hurt. Like father, like daughter, he whispered. We climbed the stairs shoulder to shoulder. The first man through the door never saw us. My father took him. I took the second. The sound was deafening in the old house, like the sky cracking. We fought through the hallway, through moonlight and muzzle flash, two ghosts in navy wool who had finally come home. When it was over, 4 bodies cooled on the pine floor, and the 5th man, the one who once sent a child's ear in a matchbox, knelt bleeding, hands zip-tied. My father raised the pistol to finish it. I put my hand on his arm. No more disappearing. I called the number on the flash drive's sticky note, an Interpol officer who had waited 15 years for this dawn. As the sky turned pearl outside the broken windows, I stood beside the man I had hated and loved in equal measure and watched the sunrise we were never supposed to share. He took off his coat, my father's coat now, truly, and draped it over my shoulders. It was warm from his body, heavy with gunpowder and cedar. I don't need forgiveness anymore, he said quietly. I just needed you to know I never stopped being your dad. I leaned my head against his shoulder like I did when I was small enough to believe daddies could fix anything. The letter? The first one was still in the pocket over my heart, violet crushed but fragrant. I didn't need to read it again. I already knew what it said. Welcome home, Elena. Some things are worth coming back from the dead for. And for the first time in 25 years, I believed in happy endings that bleed. Some secrets break families, but hers brought a father back from the dead. If this story moved your heart, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more cinematic stories.